Hi, this is Nelson Ranch, and this is the last session of Umamusume 101, and we're going to talk about recovery skills. So, in the vanilla version of Umamusume, recovery skills are going to be very important. And I want to talk about this next. That's being it. This is basically it. All right. So the reason why is because for long distance races, and by long distance, I don't necessarily mean just long distance races in the game, like 2,500 meters and above, but I mean like even for like 2,200 meters and over, if it's long enough, because of the way the game is designed, even with maxed out stamina of over 1,500, it's still not enough. It's still not enough. If the long distance race is over 3,000 meters, it's definitely not enough. You will just completely run out of steam, even if you have stamina over 1,500. So in vanilla Umamusume, the version that's going to come out soon, that stamina is going to be capped at 1,200. And at 1,200, it's not enough to run even a 2,400 meter race. You will run out of steam. You will run out of hit points or energy, and your character will start walking at the very tail end. So recovery skills are going to be a must for a while in the English version of the game. I just don't think there's any way you can get around that. There's nothing you can do about that. And the way the devs have designed it, I think what they're going to do is they're probably going to go through the first few scenarios relatively quickly. So in the Japanese version, the first scenario took 6 months, and then we went to the next scenario. In the English version, I wouldn't be surprised if they just do like 3 months, and then they go to the next scenario in the next 3 months, and 3 months, 3 months, something like that, to just cycle through the early scenarios. Because the early scenarios, some are good, but a lot of the early scenarios are duds. I think the biggest one that people really hated was make a new track, and I suspect that devs are going to try go through that as quickly as possible. So that's the reason why it's going to be this way. Anyway, in this case, what do you call it? The stamina is going to be absolutely key, or the recovery skill is going to be absolutely key. So the key thing to remember is that the stamina skill or the recovery skill, the health recovery, must happen before the start of the final acceleration phase. Because before the final acceleration phase, if your character thinks you don't have enough stamina, if you don't have enough hit points, you're not going to accelerate. So you need to have enough. Uh, and then any acceleration that happens, after the acceleration phase starts, that's if you don't have enough stamina at all, then you will start walking towards the tail end. So to prevent that, you might actually need another boost there. But ideally, you want your recovery skills to happen in the very beginning of the game or the beginning of the race. The earlier, the better. Now, if it's too early, there's a chance that your hit points are going to overflow and you don't get the full benefit of the recovery skill. But that's actually really, really rare, so you don't really have to worry about it. So the point that I want to get across here is that you want to pick a recovery skill that says that it's going to proc in the middle phase of the race. So like this skill here, Kuishinbo, your health is going to recover in the middle of the race, and those are the kind of skills that you want. You don't want them to happen at any moment. You want them to happen at a good moment, and ideally towards the beginning. Okay. Uh, Now, I noticed that the English website basically put this out, and they've actually designated the official running style. So from this point onwards, I'm going to try and follow the official website's terminology. So runners are basically front runners, as you can see. Silent Suzuka here is a front runner, and leaders are called pace chasers here. So I have to call them pace chasers now. And betweeners are called late surgers here. And the chasers are called end closers here. So I'm going to try and switch over to that. It will take me a bit to actually get used to because I'm more used to the old terminology in English, but I'm going to try and start using a runner, pace chaser, late surger, or maybe just surger, and closer, or end closer. And I'm going to try and do that. I think I'm going to have to put in pace chaser because if I don't say pace chaser, I'm going to think chaser, which is actually a closer in my mind. So it's going to be a bit of a problem. All right. So front runner, pace chaser, late surger, and end closer. Now, the reason why that is important is because the stamina required for each of these running styles is slightly different. In general, the front runners basically require the most stamina. And that's because there's this gimmick in which the front runners basically compete against each other to see who will be in the front. And that actually consumes a lot of stamina for these runners. So runners require the most stamina. This is then followed by pace chasers, formerly leaders, and they require about the same stamina as runners, minus the whole gimmick. The pace chasers don't have that runner gimmick where they actually consume a lot of stamina, so that's where that's helpful. Then it's actually the end closers, the people at the very back. They then use the next amount of stamina. They require less stamina than the above two, but they use the third most stamina. And interestingly, the characters that use the least stamina are late surgers, otherwise known as betweeners. Right? And I don't know why this is the case, but this is the case. All right. So that is then coupled with the stamina required for the distances. Now, for the distances, it's kind of hard to say what's what because it's going to be dependent on how much stamina you need. How much stamina you need is going to be dependent on how much guts you have and everything. And so, in the Japanese version, there's actually a very useful stamina calculator. I imagine the English version will pop up soon once the game is released in English. So, there's going to be a bunch of these stamina calculators, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But with low guts, you need more stamina. And if you have a lot of high guts, then you don't need as much stamina, right? And the stamina can be dealt with by having a recovery skill. So the recovery skill boosts the hit points of your character. And so even though you might not have a huge stamina, the recovery skills are going to help. So, I'm trying to explain this. So this is a short distance race, Nakayama's racecourse or racetrack, 1,200 meters. And let's say it's a runner, right? Forget about the gimmick. In the game, because 1,200 is the max stat, let's say that you have a speed of 1,200, you have a power of 1,000, and you have guts 400 and intelligence of 900. Well, if you have these stats, then your character will need at least 500 stamina to run the race fully. And if anything goes wrong, like the running gimmick, runners competing against each other gimmick procs, then this might not be enough for you to actually run the race, and you might actually walk in the end, right? And what's interesting is that if you lower the speed, say like you lower the speed to 900, then everything else being equal, power 1,000, guts 400, intelligence 900, the stamina required is going to go down to 450. Right? So higher speed requires more stamina. And if you increase the guts to 800, so they have speed 1,200, power 1,000, guts 800, and intelligence 900, then you also only need stamina 450. Right? So, you can actually increase the guts, but there isn't that much bang for the buck that you get from guts. If you have like guts of around 400, that's basically what you need. But if you have like guts 200 or like guts 100, then you require like tremendous amount of stamina, and then it's not worth it though. So you really have to balance these things out. And the best thing to do is just check the stamina calculator. So this is Kyoto 3,000 meter. In the case of a long distance race, the Kyoto 3,000 meter. Let's say you have a stat, and this is kind of like not possible really in vanilla Umamusume. But let's say you have like speed 1,200, stamina 1,200, power 1,000, guts 800, and intelligence 900. So you have like speed 1,200 and stamina 1,200, right? Even with stamina 1,200, your character will walk the race at the end. It's simply not enough. In fact, your character will require at minimum 1 gold recovery skill and 2 white recovery skills. Each gold recovery skill restores your hit points by 5.5%, and white recovery skills restores your hit points by 1.5%. So the game probably is saying that you need at least 8%, 8.5% of recovery for you to actually run this race, even with stamina 1,200. So the longer the race is, the bigger there is a need for the recovery skills, right? And in the vanilla version, even for mid distances, you're going to need that recovery skill. So The very first character that I used a lot in Umamusume 101 was my what's her name, Madazensky. She ran the mile, so it's kind of don't need the mile doesn't require that much stamina. But this time I'm across ran the Arima Kinen, the Nakayama 2,500 meters champions meeting. This is actually a long distance race, and because it is a long distance race, here are the stats: 1194 speed, 873 stamina, 1189 power, 447 guts, and 514 intelligence, and I have long distance stats, right? Uh, I knew going in that there's simply not enough stamina, so I picked up two gold recovery skills, right? Encoder Maestro and Cooldown. I could get the Encoder Maestro recovery skill from SSR Rice Shower, and because I chose SSR Rice Shower from the scenario gimmick, I could actually get another gold recovery skill, so I got two gold recovery skills, and I was hoping for these two to proc in the middle of the race. I knew that Encoder Maestro would proc somewhere in the middle. Right? That skill is designed to do so. Back then, the cooldown scenario, the cooldown recovery skill could proc at any straight line. People don't know where it would proc, but it would proc at any straight line. Right? I also then chose two gold speed skills. One was the Kosenna Professor, which I could get from SSR Kitasan Black, the speeds card. And I also chose Shippono Takinobori, which is actually a gold skill that this Tamamo Cross already had from the beginning. So this Tamamo Cross basically ran this race with 4 gold skills, right? And of these 4 gold skills, 2 of them came from support cards, 1 of them came from the scenario gimmick, and the other one I already had. I also picked up an acceleration skill, Chokusen Ikki, and this is one of the few useful acceleration skills available at the time for long distances, and was only available for chasers, so this Tamamo Cross is a chaser Tamamo Cross. Now, the key thing to understand here is that my int was only 514. So if your intelligence is only 514, there is roughly an 80% chance that each of my skills will proc. I mean, except for the unique skill. The unique skill always procs no matter what, as long as the conditions are met. If you inherit the unique skill and purchase it, then it'll be subject to proc rate depending on your intelligence. But this character has an 80% plus chance that it will proc. When you get to like 900, you have like a 90% proc rate. And when you get to 1200, you get to like, I think, 96% proc rate. So you're hitting diminishing returns. You want at the very least 400 int, just like you want at the very least 400 guts, right? Because around 400 int, I think you get something like a 70% proc rate. And at around like 500, you get to that 80% plus. So you want, you don't necessarily need a really high int and guts. But anyway, so this time I'm across, I really prayed that all my skills would proc. And you can see the results from from this YouTube address, from this web address. You can see that YouTube video that I have from 3 years ago when I ran that Arima Kinen, and you can see for yourself. And I was praying hard. All right. So that is it with Umamusume 101. I hope this has been useful for people. I know it's been 10 long sessions, but that's it. I try to space them out, so it's like every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think is what I try to do at a certain point. And what that means is when this video is released, English launch is going to be less than a week away, 6 days, right? June 26th. So right now, in the Japanese game, the champions meeting of the Oaks, basically the Derby, Tokyo 2400 meters, has basically started. And I will be participating in that one. So I'll be posting my videos of the races as usual. And on the 26th of June, just as the English releases goes off, I will also be enjoying the Japanese game's new scenario. So the 26th is going to be a bit busy day for me because I'm going to have to try and look at the Japanese game, but I'm going to also look into the English game and see if I can play. I'm gonna see if I can play by Steam, and see how that goes. So I hope people enjoy. I'm certainly hyped by all this. I'm really excited. So let's go. All right, take it easy, guys. See you around.